Okay, and finally, let's do the Mike McDaniel to the Chargers segment. Chargers get their new OC, replace Greg Roman after 2 seasons. Roman, Harbaugh's longtime boy, Stanford, San Francisco, etc. Runs the smash mouth style of football, and it was impossible to run that this year. I will say that for Greg Roman. The Chargers had one of the worst O-lines in the league. According to ESPN, they had the dead last win rate in pass blocking as well, so they only won 53% of the time on pass blocking, which is the worst in the league, aka basically every other snap. Justin Herbert had some guy in his lap from the defense, or in certain instances, multiple guys in his lap. So I don't even fully blame Greg Roman for the way things worked out this year with the Chargers. Listen, winning 11 games, beating the Chiefs twice, the Chiefs with Mahomes and competitive, not like the end of it, but they played the Chiefs twice with Mahomes when they were still in the playoff hunt, beat them both times, including at Arrowhead. Beat the Broncos, beat the Eagles. Like, they had some really good wins this year. To win 11 games and make the playoffs with the worst O-line in the league is a remarkable accomplishment. It really is. Like, no Slater. Obviously, it's been talked about a million times, but Rashawn Slater gets injured before the season. Joe Alt, high ankle sprain, needs surgery in the middle of the season. When Alt was in, the Chargers were top 3 in the league in terms of offensive efficiency. I could. Listen, I've watched every Chargers game for the last couple of years. I can give you the full breakdown. I think Jamari Sawyer, who moved from guard to tackle, I think he's good enough to play guard. Zion Johnson, who was a high draft pick, I think he's good enough to play guard. They certainly need a new center. All due respect to Bradley Bozeman, they absolutely need a new center. They have $100 million in money to spend this offseason in free agency. I do think, which is number 1 in the league, by the way, I do think that they will need to extend Thule, who is a fantastic pass rusher. They had no problem kicking Bosa at the curb because Thule's that good. Young man out of USC, led the Pac-12 in sacks a couple of years ago, was their top sack artist this year. Hopefully Khalil Mack is back for one more ride because he is a good player, a really, really good player when healthy. They had him on a 1-year $15 million or 1-year $18 million deal this year. So they'll extend Thule. You got to pay a couple other guys. Obviously in a year or two, you'll want to extend Ladd and probably Q. But other than that, you got some serious room to play with. And again, if you bring back Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt and those guys stay healthy, they should instantly have a really, really elite offensive line. You got to get a better center. I do think you can do enough with Zion Johnson and Jamari Sawyer. I would probably even consider going out and getting a new backup left tackle in case Slater or Alt get hurt again, because I don't think it was good enough with Deculus and Sawyer at the tackle spots, or Pipkins. And by the way, if you ask me who I respect the most on the Chargers O-line besides Slater and Alt, it's absolutely Trey Pipkins. The dude was playing on like a torn. I think he tore his ACL 2 years ago. He's been playing on like one knee for the last couple of years. I got respect for Trey Pipkins, like holding up enough. It wasn't really good enough, but I got respect. The guy was going to battle with like one knee out there. So you got to get better on the O-line. I like the McDaniel hire. Obviously, he worked wonders with Tua in 2023. That was the year he led the league in passing. Last 2 seasons hasn't been all that good with Tua being hurt and then this year flat out being benched. I just think I think the run game that he helped learn and develop under Shanahan for those 3 or 4 seasons he was with the Niners, and in my opinion, one of the best play callers of his generation in Kyle Shanahan, that is what you're looking for. Like Raheem Mostert, 17 rushing touchdowns. If you can do that next year for the Chargers, they'll be happy. Kamani Vidal led the Chargers in rushing this year. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. And I like Vidal, by the way. I think he was the unsung hero of the offense, arguably. He was really good when pressed into duty because Najee Harris blew up his face in a firework accident and then popped his Achilles. And then, they had Omarion Hampton and their rookie first rounder in North Carolina, who's a really physical, really strong dude. Looks like he's going to be really good in the league, but he just kept getting injured. I think it was a hamstring and then an ankle, and ultimately he just basically wasn't able to help the team out because he was so banged up, and he missed like half the season in the middle of the season anyway. So they had to rely on Kamani Vidal. I mean, that was their RB1 for most of the season, and if you can, I think you're good on Najee Harris. You signed him to a 1-year, $5 million deal. I think you're probably good on that. He had really good rushing stats for the Steelers. I'll give him that. He had 1,000 yards damn near every year he was there, so maybe you bring him back on a similar deal, but it's tough, man, when you pop your Achilles and You hurt your eye in an off the field accident. It was tough. That was a tough year for Najee Harris. So I just, point being, I think if you can bring back Vidal and maybe obviously you're going to want to try to lean on Hampton. I just don't know how much you can trust his health, but he's a fantastic player and a physical dude when you got him. So, in the Harbaugh scheme, when you want to run the ball hard and forward, you're going to need a couple different running backs anyway. So, I think you feel really good about those two guys. You still have Haskins on the roster, I believe. You can maybe bring back Harris, maybe not, but you got to improve the interior of the O-line. I think you're fine with those guys. Your skill weapons are solid. I think you'd still like a bona fide wide receiver one. I think Ladd is a really, really good player. Statistically took a step back this year because they brought Keenan on and Herbert went to Keenan, but Ladd's still a really good player. I know it was a frustrating year for him for sure, but Ladd, Q, Keenan if he comes back, Gadsden, Trey Harris if he can hit the weight room, get a little bigger. I think it could still be turn into a good player. I mean, him and Gadsden were rookies this year, so you're all right there. Another big thing for the Chargers is Jesse Minter going to come back. He's been interviewing for all these head coaching jobs. If they can bring him back and he doesn't take a head coaching job or doesn't get hired by one, that's a massive win. They had one of the better defenses in the league this year, and Minter was certainly a huge reason for that. A lot of people are saying, will the Chargers be Super Bowl favorites or among the Super Bowl favorites next year? I think that's still a little much, but McDaniel is a clear upgrade over Greg Roman. And I will say, I know what Greg Roman was trying to do this year. He was trying to play ball control and run. And again, I don't even blame him because the O-line was so bad with all those injuries. It's really not even his fault. But I think when you score 3 points against the Patriots in a playoff game, and Drake May, who's a good player, really good player, but is a young QB on the other side, and it's another dud of a playoff game for Herbert, you got to turn somewhere. And Harbaugh was asked immediately in the presser right after the game, like, are you going to bring Greg Roman back? And he was like, I don't know. We'll have to evaluate that. And a couple days later, he was fired. So home run hire, man. Home run hire. I mean, a lot of people were saying the second McDaniel was let go from the Dolphins, like, everyone should hire this dude as an offensive play caller. McDermott and Shanahan have admittedly said they have stolen plays from his motion, his kind of motion design. I was reading an ESPN article where Shanahan said that. So he is an extremely, extremely well-respected offensive mind throughout the league, obviously. And that's huge, man. It's huge for the Bolts. Absolutely huge for the Bolts. The pieces are in place, man. I think, obviously you really hope that Minter can stick around, but the pieces are in place for the Chargers to be a Super Bowl contender next year. And again, one game at a time. Herbert still hasn't won a playoff game yet. He's 0-3 in the playoffs, and I was at the Houston game. Huge dud. 4 picks. 2 of those weren't his fault, but still 4 picks. This year, playoffs, huge dud. Again, a lot of that is on the O-line, but you got to get an OC who can bring the best out of Herbert and really have him let it rip. And it's that fine line between ball control that Harbaugh loves to run and letting Herbert open it up down the field. I felt like the Chargers didn't open it up down the field at all in the big games this year, especially obviously against the Patriots. And of course, some of that was that they literally had the worst O-line in the league. So, dude, if they stay healthy, if Slater and Alt are healthy next year, and they can go out in free agency and get a better center and improve the interior of the O-line, dude, I mean, there's no reason the Chargers can't be a really, really, really good team next year and take that next step. And I think McDaniel will be a huge reason for that.